Good morning, Lori Glenn here with session 3 of our merry month of mindful meditation together. So we've been adding on layers each week to our meditation and to the concepts that we're working with. And this week we add the layer of thoughts. This is a big one. There's a recent Harvard study that concludes we spend approximately 47% of our waking hours lost in thought about something other than what we're actually doing. That to me was a staggering number. That's almost half of our lives not fully present to experience and engage in the moments of our lives. That's kind of crazy. Secondarily, we tend to have a vast amount of thoughts that are not positive, that are worry or anxiety or anger thoughts. And we also have a tremendous amount of thoughts that aren't even real, that imagining things that haven't even happened, that could happen. So our thoughts are real. However, they're not necessarily true. They're real in that we're having them. There's an experience of them, but they're not necessarily true thoughts. For example, thinking of a tree is not the actual tree, right? That's a very basic example. So our thoughts have the ability to affect our physiology. They do directly affect our physiology. And what I mean by that is when we think thoughts, they affect what's going on internally in us. So they can affect our blood pressure, our heart rate, our temperature. They affect our mood, our emotions. Just think, for example, of a time when you were thinking about something that angered you, that upset you. And you were just caught up in the thought pattern and you kept mulling it over in your mind, your heart rate probably went up, your temperature likely increased, your blood pressure I can almost guarantee went up if you had taken it. You also started to affect your internal mood. You started to become angry. You started to become agitated. There was a release of stress hormones in your body like epinephrine and norepinephrine and cortisol, which create these responses in our body. So essentially, by thinking a certain way, we're creating that more in our lives. The way we think is the way we live. So if you're constantly thinking worry or angry thoughts, you begin to live a worrisome, angry life. So there's a saying that my teachers mention, and I'm not sure exactly where it comes from, but it is that thoughts make a great servant, but a poor master. And I love this quote because it's very true. We need our thoughts, right? We need to be able to plan for the future. We need to be able to learn from the past. We need to be able to engage in conversation with whoever we're with in the current moment. So we need to be able to think. However, if our thoughts are running the show, if our thoughts are driving the bus, they don't serve us well. They can hijack what we want to be doing, feeling, behaving like in our lives and take us in a different direction. So we're not trying to stop our thoughts, and that is a huge misconception with meditation, that we're trying to just stop thoughts from happening. That's not what we're doing, particularly in the mindfulness tradition or the Vipassana tradition. What we're doing is learning to recognize what's present. Remember, the first wing of our mindfulness meditation is recognizing what's happening. So recognize that we're having thoughts. Oh, recognize, there I am, caught up in that angry thought again, or remembering that past experience, or fantasizing about this future thing that might happen that hasn't actually happened. And the second part is bringing a sense of loving kindness, acceptance, recognition without judgment. So as we practice today and thoughts come in, and we'll play with that, the concept is to recognize, notice the thoughts that come in, allow them to be present, and you might name them like we did last week with sensations in the body. You might name remembering thought or worry thought or planning thought, or you can just say thinking, and then allow the thoughts to pass by without getting entangled in them or caught up in the story that they might be attached to. We are full of stories and we get caught up in our stories, and let the thoughts pass by. So you can imagine your mind like the vast, clear blue sky. This is a very common analogy in the Vipassana tradition. And the thoughts are clouds. They're simply clouds that present themselves in the horizon of your mind. And as we observe them and notice them and recognize them without trying to cling to them, they do eventually pass. This isn't to say the same clouds don't come back through. Actually, they come back through again and again. How many of us have the, they call it the top 10 theme of thoughts that play through your head constantly all day long, and then again the next day, and then again the next day. So as we can learn to not cling to them, to not attach to them, just observe them with compassion and kindness and let them pass, we can start to take back control of our own lives, our own physiology, and the way that we live. So that's it for today. Let's get to practicing. So remember to note the time on your video now. It looks like we're at about almost 6 minutes, 5:45, 5 minutes, 45 seconds, so that you can come right back to the practice rather than the instruction. And remember, the goal is to, if you can, practice this each day until next Monday when we get a new practice and a new layer to add to everything. And again, you can practice any time of day. It does not have to be at 7 a.m. If you want to practice in the afternoon or the evening, please do that. So I look forward to practicing with you, and let's get started. So go ahead and take your seat. Again, allow your seat to be one that's comfortable, that you can sit in. We'll be here for maybe a little over 10 minutes. So allow yourself to be comfortable. You might sit on a cushion or a chair, have your feet on the floor if you're on a chair. You might even be sitting in your car listening to this while you warm it up to go to work. Allow yourself to sit in a way that supports alertness and a lengthy upright spine, but also allows you to be a little bit easeful, comfortable, that you could sit here for a while without having to fidget and move. And then go ahead and close your eyes. Allow the body to relax, the shoulders to soften down and back. Relax your eyes behind the eyelids. And just notice if there's any tension you're holding in your jaw or anywhere else that you can just let go of. Just allowing any obvious areas of tension to soften, to melt, to release. Relax the tongue inside the mouth. And become aware of your breath. Just notice it. Become aware of your environment, noticing the sounds around you, the temperature, the sensation of the air on your skin. Notice any sensations in the body, areas of tingling, areas that might ache, areas of heat or cold. And no problem, just notice what's there for you, and then guide your awareness back to the breath. Just like the puppy analogy, bringing the puppy back to sit and stay. Notice the breath as it moves in along the nostrils and down the throat. Feel the lungs widen, the belly expand with your inhale. And with your exhale, feel everything move out. The belly draw back towards the spine, the chest soften. Again, using the breath as the anchor of our practice, that place to which we can come back that is always there, unwavering, rooted, grounded. Feeling fully the full breath as you inhale and exhale. after a few breaths, you may notice that the mind has already wandered to thoughts. Maybe planning breakfast or lunch or whatever time of day you're watching this. Maybe worrying about something you needed to do and didn't do. Maybe just thinking about thinking. And that's a thought too. So as you notice thoughts arise in your mind, again, imagine that thought as a cloud, a gentle, puffy white cloud in the blue sky of your mind. And see if you can watch the cloud move across the mind without engaging in it, without thinking any more thoughts about it. And then come back to the breath, feeling the inhale and the exhale. Each time returning back to that calm state of breathing, we train our mind to come back to the state of equanimity, the state of calm. Excuse me. You might notice a few breaths and then find that the mind has gotten entangled in thoughts again. No problem. That moment of noticing is the moment of mindfulness. So that's the beautiful part. As you notice you've gotten lost, become aware, turn your attention to recognize that you've gotten lost in thought. Become aware of the thought. You might gently name it, remembering or planning, imagining or doubting, judging, fantasizing. Sometimes just in naming the thought, it loses a bit of its power and its effect. And you can more easily allow it to pass. And if you find yourself engaged in a thought, maybe a sticky thought, maybe a charged thought that really triggers something in you and you start to tumble down the line of a story or engagement, just notice that too. Caught up, engaged, and then draw your awareness once again back to the sensation of the breath, like pulling yourself back to the anchor, yourself being the boat, back to the stability of your anchor. Feel the breath move in, the belly expand, and the exhale moves out, the belly moves back to the spine. Even if it's 1,000 times, again, bringing yourself back to the current moment by way of the breath. Each time you find yourself directed towards a thought, recognize what's happening. Acknowledge the thought, or thoughts if there's multiples. You might gently name them, and then guide your awareness back to the breath. As we train ourselves to witness thoughts without engaging, without entangling ourselves in them, we train ourselves to be the master of our own mind rather than a servant to our thoughts. Just the last couple of breaths here. And gently opening the eyes and coming back. Of course, you're always welcome to stay longer. So please enjoy this practice from now until next Monday when you'll get a new practice. Any time of day you can do this. And remember, you don't have to believe everything you think. I hope you have a beautiful week. Namaste.